Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Employee Baltimore Show. We are excited today as we continue through our Manufacturing Careers Month because we have some exciting guests today that are going to be helping us to get people employed. That's what we do. That's what the Employee Baltimore Show is here for, and that's what it's all about. The first thing I need you to do is to begin to hit the like and the share button. We want to get as many people on here as we can so that we can have this amazing information reach as many people as we possibly can, because we want everybody in Baltimore employed, everybody that desires to be employed. And this is our Manufacturing Careers Month. So if you already on the broadcast, put hashtag MCM in the comments and we'll be able to get those comments on the screen. One other thing, if you are viewing from a watch party, I know that I'm sharing it on my page. Come over to the MOED page. That is Facebook Live /Balt MOED, or just look up the Mayor's Office of Employment Development, because if you're in the original stream, we can get your comments on the air if you have questions for our guests today. And we have some very, very knowledgeable guests going to be talking to us about a lot of different things. One of the things that we wanted to focus on as we've kind of revamped the show a little bit is focusing on more of what MOED has to offer. And I'm excited today because in our first segment, we're going to be talking about what started out as our COVID job board, but now it's just our job board. What we did is we understood the need that we be able to be more accessible virtually, as everybody was kind of locked in because of the global pandemic. And one of the amazing things that came out of the global pandemic is our job board. Our job board is a place where we're constantly updating job information. And today I have with me the person that maintains the job board. He is the job board guru himself, Mr. Andre Beckles, one of our talented BSRs. Andre, welcome to the Employee Baltimore Show.
Hey, how are you, Marvin?
Man, I'm excited about being here. I'm always excited about the opportunity to share employment information. I'm hoping that we can get the job board up, but I wanted to bring you on to talk about some tips for the job board. To help people be able to better navigate the job board.
All right, very well. Well, I'd like to introduce myself, as Marvin just did. My name is Andre Beckles. I'm a business services rep with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. So what I mainly do right now is I manage the job board. So a couple tips that I want to speak on about the job board right now. So right now, when you go onto our landing page, we have a ticker. That ticker lists or just totals the amount of jobs that we have listed on the board. As of right now, we have about 300 jobs on that job board, which is great. The second thing I want to talk about is the new posted jobs. So on the drop-down menu, when it comes to category, the first thing you'll see is view recently posted jobs. That post right there, that tab right there, it actually shows all of the positions that were recently posted within the last 5 days. And then the third thing I want to talk about is the red jobs. So if you go into each individual categories, you'll see certain positions are in red. Those are actually the hot jobs. Those are positions that were posted the most recent. And so those are positions that employers are looking for right now. So those are 3 quick things I want to speak about the job board. Those are vital when navigating through the job board so when our users can know.
Man, that's awesome stuff. You're going to be seeing Andre regularly as we talk about this COVID. Well, no longer COVID. This job board we created. And listen, the beautiful thing about this job board is a product of the amazing relationships that we have with employers. So this is fresh information. We just went through the job board with our director, and we got a whole bunch of stuff off there where the jobs had already been filled. So when he says it's over 300 jobs, there are over 300 jobs that we have active relationships with employers. And people are looking. This is real live stuff. So you want to check out our job board. The website is going across the ticker right now. Andre, I want to thank you for being with us today. Man, continue to do the great work that you do helping the residents of the city of Baltimore.
No, I definitely will. And I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Before we go to our next segment, we got to take a pause for a major cause. Our MOED family was dealt a real blow. This man is one of those unsung heroes. You may not see him at a center because of the type of work that he did, but he served the city of Baltimore for 32 years in the mayor's office of employment development, ascending all the way to being our communications director. And he went from labor to reward and triumphed over cancer. We're talking about the one and only Mr. Bryce Freeman. That smile you see on that picture is indicative of Bryce. Even in some of these latter days, if he had strength, he would continue to attend meetings and still come on while he was right in the fight for his very life. And you still saw that smile. You still had that great sense of humor. We want you to continue to keep his family and to keep our MOED family in your prayers. The amazing thing about it is the Employ Baltimore tag is one of those phrases that was coined by Bryce. As we kind of last week named or dubbed the show the Employ Baltimore Show, I think it's a fitting tribute for somebody who has made his contribution for the last 32 years to see into it that residents of the city of Baltimore have great opportunities. I want to personally say, Bryce, I thank you for your commitment and your family for allowing you to make such a great commitment to the city of Baltimore. Please keep his family and our MOED family in your prayers. Thank you, Bryce. All right, y'all. We are moving along. One of the newest segments on our Employ Baltimore show deals with diversity. Last week, we had Miss Nicole Mundell on to talk about reentry. We are trying to be the leading force, the Mayor's Office of Employment Development, in making sure that we practice what we preach when we talk about building a workforce system that works. And that means being able to be all things to all people. So today I'm equally excited because I have a friend of mine and someone that I consider to be a brother on with us. His name is Mr. Lonnie Walker, and he is the founder and the director of Joy Baltimore, which advocates for people in the LGBTQ community as we focus today's diversity segment on the LGBTQ community and equality in employment. What's up, Lonnie?
And good afternoon. What's going on, Marvin?
Man, you always accept my invitations, man.
First, I want to say my condolences to the MOED family for the loss of such a great man. We need more people like that here in Baltimore. So my condolences to the whole MOED family.
I want to thank you on behalf of our family for that, Bryce. For Lonnie. Bryce was really a staple in MOED. I tell people oftentimes that this run that I have now is my second time, but going back, my accumulated time started over 20 years ago. And, Bryce was here, man. So he's been a staple in the services that we provide. So we really appreciate that. You have been a person that has kind of broadened my nets as it pertains to me being able to provide service. I'll never forget that day. You said, do you work with some young people or all young people? I said, Lonnie, what are you talking about? And you took me into a room in a meeting and sat me at a table that for the most part, I wasn't really equipped to be in because I hadn't gotten the education on how to work with people in the LGBTQ community that I have now. And we were in a room talking about providing services for trans young people. And man, that evolutionized my life because as a service provider, I don't want anybody to not feel as though we have something relevant and tangible to offer. So with you being here today, the first thing I want to ask you is talk to service providers like MOED and other organizations about the need to be able to have a more balanced approach to how we offer services and some of the things that we can do to make sure that we're prepared to offer services to people in the LGBTQ community.
Well, first and foremost, understanding the pronouns, understanding what people's pronouns are. So if that means getting your staff trained, so when people walk into the building, they know how to identify the people and not toying with their pronouns and their gender, how to identify. Because we have most of the time we have the staff of the organizations we're coming into are cackling in the background, so forth and so on. So if I walk in there and I'm already uncomfortable, I'm going to turn around and walk out. So it's about having training, around the board for the staff that's employed by these organizations, so they can better service young people who are dealing with the LGBTQ, transgender, cisgender, the different pronouns, understanding the pronouns. That's first and foremost.
Is that something that Joy Baltimore offers? training opportunities for
Yes,
organizations that want to
we
be
come
better?
in and we will train you on all the pronouns, as funny as crazy as they may. I always tell people what you do in your personal life must transition differently in your professional life. You may not like things in your personal life, but when you're sitting in your professional lifestyle, you need to get it right.
Awesome, man. Look, I was in a space, and it wasn't in MOED, where we had one of those people dealing with a trans person and he didn't quite understand. But you know, the one thing that I can say is, as an agency, we try to get out front and make sure that we're getting the training. So I'm certain that there may be a partnership opportunity, but I want other organizations to tune into Joy Baltimore, so that we're all better service providers. And the second thing I want you to do is I want you to talk to employers. We have employers that check in and tune into the show. Talk to employers. If I'm a person that's in business, and you know, one of the things I learned is we can be unknowingly offensive, right? We can be not, you know, inequitable, and it's not even our intention. Talk to employers who may want to know better, be better, and do better.
So, I don't walk according to sexuality. And I always say hire people who are qualified, whether they're LGBTQ, cisgender, so forth and so on. And when you're hiring them, hold them to the same standards that you have your other employees held to. But if you have a problem, pull them to the side, pull them in a room and get an understanding of where people are at with their sexuality. If somebody's transitioning, are they in the beginning of their transition? Are they late in their transition? So you have an understanding versus saying something to them in that public room with all the other employees. Now people are going to start teasing and so forth and so be able to pull your employees, especially your LGBTQ employees, to the side and have those conversations with them. And if you don't understand, go get educated. Go get educated. It's nothing wrong. You can reach out to me. There's other people in the community, but educate yourself when having those conversations so you're not offending. And it's not to say that you're going to get it right the first time, because we all make mistakes. Me being a part of the community and in the community, I make mistakes. So it's a learning experience, and over time, you will get it.
Lonnie, awesome, man. Right. I love how you are right to the point. I got one more question for you, because we get a lot of job seekers on the show, and I want you to talk to job seekers, as we hope that, well, not hope, as we work towards service providers being better and employers being better. Give some tips to job seekers who are part of the LGBTQ community, that might be empowering to them in their quest for employment opportunities.
Well, one thing that I did was as a program is I became a youth work sponsor. Thank you, Miss Michelle Miles, for allowing me to be a youth work sponsor for the last 5 years. And we put out there that we are a youth work sponsor, and for those who are LGBTQ seeking employment, we gladly welcome them in, so that way they know that there are companies and places that welcome them in. Um, when you go seek a job, it's a job, people. Whether you're LGBTQ or cisgender, you are going to get a job. So you need to go there appropriately, not looking for any special treatment, because you are looking for a job. And a job has requirements. It has requirements, and you must meet those requirements. You don't get hired because you're LGBTQ. You get hired because you're qualified, and you go in and you show them how qualified you are. And if you need help with things, ask questions, young people. Do not be afraid to ask questions. No question is a dumb question. That's the only way people are going to find out if you need additional help or services.
Lonnie, I greatly appreciate you, and I want to thank you for being with us today. As always, your wisdom and your mentorship is impacting people, as you said, whether they're LGBTQ or cisgender, because this man who desires to be able to be a better service provider, you took up under your wing and helped me, trained me, taught me how to better serve people so that nobody is left out of the equation for the MOED family to be able to assist. So his organization, www.joybaltimore.org. Lonnie, is there any other way that you want people to reach out to you?
They can email me. They can hit me up on social media. We're very active. We're having a community give back block party on April 24th at 1640 Gorsuch Avenue. Everything is free. So we ask everybody to come out from 12 to 3.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I want to thank you again, Lonnie, for joining us today, man. You have been a leading advocate for people and equality beyond LGBTQ or anything else. Continue to do the great work that you do. And as always, any way that MOED can support the work of Joy Baltimore, we want to continue to stay connected. Thank you, and I
Thank
appreciate you.
you.
All right, folks, that was informative. Lonnie is always straight to the point, shoot straight from the hip. One of my other brothers and good friends who I grew up with is in the comments. His name is Marquise Clanton, and he says people should be a little more open-minded because every individual is different. And I totally agree. I remember going through training that we received with the University of Maryland at the Youth Opportunity Center, where we partnered with what was a clinic that's specialized in working with people from the LGBTQ community and trans young people specifically. And when we got that training and we began to bring more people of diverse backgrounds in, it transformed our little community that we call Yo Baltimore. So I want to encourage everybody, whether you're a service provider, whether you're an employer, whether you're somebody that means to be about a good work, I need you to make sure that you plugging into Joy Baltimore and other organizations to make sure that you're getting properly trained, because we want to be able to offer great services to everybody who's a resident of the city of Baltimore and beyond. Marquise, you can't see it because it's in our backstage chat, but Lonnie said Marquise is amazing, and I agree. That's my bro. So we coming to the featured spot in the show. And as I said before, we're continuing with our Manufacturing Careers Month. So if you're on the show right now, put a hashtag MCM in there. No, it's not for Man Crush Monday. It is for Manufacturing Careers Month. As we centralize our focus around manufacturing careers, we have an amazing event tomorrow that I'm going to talk a little bit about after this segment, where we're partnering with H&S Bakery to bring some new people, a whole bunch of new staff on for them. With that being said, manufacturing is huge in Baltimore. Our ports were redredged, and being a port city, I remember, I don't know, this was a long time ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, when Stephanie Rawlins Blake was still the mayor, attending a big conference that took place downtown at the new Hilton, and it centered and focused on manufacturing and how manufacturing was going to be brought back to life in Baltimore, and to now work with so many employers who are in manufacturing to see the boom. I am just completely excited because of some of the revolutionary things that we've been able to do and accomplish. And I'm excited about today's segment because a longtime friend and a brother in this work is with us today. And he's here to talk about training, certifications. A lot of times when we look at warehousing or manufacturing, we look at it because it's entry level. However, there are amazing opportunities for growth if you have the proper education and information. And we have from Maryland New Direction, Mr. Maurice Good, who is here to talk to us about getting the proper training and certifications can do in forwarding your career in the manufacturing field. Maurice, thank you for joining me, man.
Oh man, it's truly my pleasure, And I, again, on behalf of Maryland New Directions, we want to pass our deepest condolences to Moed on the passing of Bryce. We need, like you said, we need more servant leaders like him. Just they make a difference in Baltimore, and so better days are ahead because of people like yourself, Marvin, and all of the great people who work at MOED. You guys do amazing work, and we're just grateful to be a partner. So thank you for having me.
You have definitely put your stamp on the footprint of MOED in Baltimore, being a training provider, whether it was at the youth opportunity level or beyond. Talk to us a little bit about what it is you do, specifically you, Maurice, and your program, and then we're going to broaden the conversation to talk a little bit more about training.
Okay. So it's crazy, man, because like this is a pivotal moment for me personally, because I remember when I first started my professional journey, I was a case manager / job facilitator at Yo West Baltimore on Lafayette, and that was back in 1994. So that began my journey of working with young people in the workforce development space. I had volunteered at the Urban League the year prior, but my first paid work experience came from West Baltimore on Lafayette. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so man, and I had the opportunity to then move to New York City and do some work with the youth build model in New York City in different boroughs in New York. So training, I've been doing workforce development training with young people since 1994, and so one of the things that I often say is that training is such an undervalued skill because normally people say I need a job, right? So that's the instinct. I need a job. And I'm often saying to them, when you say you need a job, are you willing to start at the very bottom, or are you willing to make the commitment to be trained so that you can have a higher wage? What's most important to you? Just having a job or being able to put yourself in a position for higher wage career opportunities? So, those two things are very different. One is speaking to the immediate, the other is about career building and career growth. And so I've pretty much built my experience and my career on workforce development training, not just here in Baltimore, but also in New York City, and had the privilege of traveling around the country doing workforce development, especially with young people. But now here at Maryland New Directions, we serve 18 to 60. So we have people coming through our doors for training at the age of 59 and 60 years old. So again, training is so undervalued because again, it's like playing Legos, right? So having those certified credentials and being able to stack them so that you can build a career that you can be proud of and improve the quality of life for your families. And so that's something that is very near and dear to me personally, is that I'm all about putting you in a position so that you can improve your quality of life for your family, right? And so the people who come through our doors, we don't just see them themselves, but we see their family. We see this family dynamic, and we want to be able to serve them in whatever capacity that we can, but also having the focus on the training and the employment and workforce piece. So, and just for those who don't know about Maryland New Directions, so Maryland New Directions is going into its 49th year of operation in Baltimore. And it started as the Baltimore Non-Traditional Work for Women. And it was to assist women who were displaced homemakers, women who had became widowed, women who were entering the workforce for the very first time. And that was in 1973. And over the decades, M&D just reinvented itself. But it reinvented itself by listening to the stakeholders, the community stakeholders who said, I'm tired of training that leads nowhere, right? So I go to this organization, they teach me how to shake a hand, they teach me what to wear, they teach me what to say on an interview, but then there's nothing after that. And so we listen to them. And so about 9 years ago, we started to transform our service model that focused on industry related trainings. And so the first one was our MTDL, manufacturing, maritime transportation, distribution, and logistics, which is the manufacturing supply chain piece. And so we said, okay, we had researchers do research and to figure out where the boom was going to be. And so we were told the port of Baltimore is going to be booming in the next 5 years. This is what we were told almost 10 years ago. And it came to fruition. What we learned in that process is that the port is its own community. They speak their own language.
Absolutely.
And so it took us some time to figure out how do we make that communication and bridge the gap of our lack of knowledge of the port culture, and to be able to show them that we're here to support everything that they're doing, to help put people to work and career opportunities. And so training, so training was very crucial. You can't just say, okay, well, here's an opportunity for you to go down to the port and load and unload boxes. That seems very simplistic, but the reality is there's so much that goes into that situation. There's so much that goes into working in a warehouse scenario, right? So people think, oh, okay, so I'll just go and I'll, stack boxes, or I put olive oil in bottles, but there's so much more to it. And so that's where the training comes in, that people have to understand the process. So one of the things that I would say more than anything is that understand that training equates to process, right? You have to be able to embrace, respect, and appreciate the process of training so that you can fully take advantage of all that training has to offer, so that you can earn that higher wage and continue to build on those higher wages so that you can go into supervision if you choose to, go into management, and so forth.
So, Maurice, one of the words that you use that I want to kind of jump on, and we're going to talk about some of the specific tools. Everybody want to hear about forklift and all that sort of thing. But one of the words that you use that I always try to drive home to people is culture. How important is it? And as a service provider in training, because I'm familiar with what you guys do, how important is it that a person acclimates themselves to that culture, that they do speak the language? Even when you're sitting down in an interview, you want to be able to talk shop. Talk to us about how important it is that you become or engraft yourself into that culture so that people can see you in that role.
Great. That's a great point. And I like to equate it. For me, everything I use, I often use analogies, right? To drive home the point. And in this particular analogy, I would use your home, right? So your home, everybody's home has a culture, right? And your next door neighbor's culture could be very different from yours, or it could be similar but somewhat different, right? And so the first part of understanding a culture is to simply talk to people, communication. So being able to call the employer, speak with the person who's on the other end of the phone, and ask vital questions. Ask questions about, okay, what is the culture of this work environment? Is it a laid back culture? Is it a more upfront culture? What is the attire is part of the culture. So like I'm dressed like this right now because training oftentimes is business casual. Usually I'm dressed like you, Marvin. I'm usually in a shirt and tie and so forth. But I want people to understand that training is about being comfortable, but also showing that you have some professionalism. And so, that's what it's about. And so understanding the communication, how do people communicate within that culture? How do people interact in that culture? All of these things is part of the culture. And then the skill sets, right, which is oftentimes overlooked in terms of employment. What are the skill sets that is needed for you to be able to take your career to the next level? Because some places mediocrity is acceptable. It is what it is. And then there's some work environments, where mediocrity will get you shown the door.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you would bring that up, because we had a meeting with one of the larger manufacturers here, and it's okay to say the name. We reconstituting and rebuilding our partnership with Amazon, and there are a lot of people that ran to work for Amazon because of the wage, but because they really didn't understand how Amazon and that culture worked. It didn't work out for them, man. So I could definitely relate. I don't know if you have any insights to, that or any stories. I know I have some amazing stories of people who worked at Amazon. Can you share anything as it pertains to just how that was a game changer, them coming to Baltimore?
Absolutely. Because again, Amazon is becoming but the global giant. And so just them coming and bringing tens of thousands of jobs to our region was huge. And then them saying that we're willing to pay you a higher wage, but in order to earn this higher wage, you have to come with a certain skill set, right? And so people say, well, how difficult can it be to just put earphones in a box? Well, there's so much more that goes into that process. Again, that's why I'm stressing training and process, because there's so much that goes into it, and people have lost their lives. Not talking about Amazon, but just talking about in the manufacturing industry overall. People have lost their lives, because manufacturing, people think, oh, okay, it's easy money. No, it's just the opposite, to be frank with you, And so, speaking of something that you brought up, the forklift, I often say to the people who come to us for services that the forklift is heavy equipment, right? So forklift is heavy equipment, and so therefore you have to treat it with respect. If you don't have respect for that heavy equipment, people can lose lives, people can be injured, people can be dismembered, right? And so again, people have to understand that this is where the training comes in at, right? And so understanding a workplace culture is crucial to you not only keeping your job and growing in the job, but also being able to keep your life, right? So when we talk about manufacturing, in some workplaces, they're using power tools like the nail gun, right? The nail gun is a very powerful tool, and if not treated with respect, people can be hurt, people can be killed. So again, that's why training is so important, because people have this mindset of, oh yeah, I can use a nail gun and not pay attention and use it improperly and end up shooting somebody with a nail, and who knows where the nail lands, and somebody seriously gets hurt, if not killed. So that's why it's important to understand the culture of the place that you're seeking employment. And then it's also okay to say, you know what, this place is not for me. I understand that people need employment, but it's okay to say, you know what, this isn't for me. I
Yeah,
need to be in a different type of setting.
yeah. So let me jump back, because you kind of talking about some stuff, and you moving past it. But when you talk about a person having an accident with a nail gun, what we really talking about is safety.
Absolutely.
And when you're talking about manufacturing, everything from what you wear to how you handle equipment goes into it. How is it that you guys, what do you guys do to try to drive the point of safety home in the training environment to be able to help people when they get into the workplace?
Great question again. And for me, it's very personal. So like I'm always saying to them, I want to make sure that you get home to your families, right? And so people can relate to that, right? So you could talk about, okay, OSHA, which OSHA is very important, don't get me wrong. And there's a way that you can infuse that. But oftentimes people on the front lines, they aren't familiar with OSHA. They don't know what OSHA stands for. And so, but when you talk about me being able to get home to my family, that is something I can relate to. And so there,
Absolutely.
and so therefore, that's how we craft the narrative and the conversation at M&D, is that we want to tell them, we want you to get home to your family. And just what Lonnie said, play no games. Playing no games with you. This is what it is. Like, if you do not respect this workspace that you're in, you can hurt yourself, you can hurt others, people could end up in the hospital. And oftentimes I tell our trainees that nobody wants to make a phone call to your family from the hospital saying that you're in the hospital because you were injured, or that the morgue, or that the examiner just came to remove your body from this workspace. Those things happen on a daily basis around the world when it comes to manufacturing. right? So those who have watched The Wire, right? Those who have watched The Wire season 2, when they talk about the port, well, inside of those 20 and 40-foot, as they call them, cans, right, are all types of vehicles, especially here in Port of Baltimore.
That's a big
So
part of what we do here. Yep.
that's a huge part of what we do here. We're vehicle processors, right? And so inside those cans could be all types of, it could be a Tesla, could be several Teslas, could be anything, right? But those cans by itself are extremely heavy. And so if you're not paying attention, you're working and you're not paying attention, and let's just say an accident happened and that can slip from that forklift, whoever's under it is in trouble. So safety has to be the paramount of everything. So here at M&D, we're going to always stress from day one, not even from day one, from day zero, when we're in the info session, we're stressing about safety, right? And we continue to plant that seed so that they understand that safety is paramount, safety is important. We want you to get home to your families. You know, we want other people to be your coworkers to be able to get home to their families. Well, that's part of the culture, right? So that's all, that is a huge part. Safety, workplace safety is a huge part of the culture.
You're on live with the Employee Baltimore show. We come to you every Wednesday at 1 p.m. And today we're talking to Mr. Maurice Good from the Maryland New Directions Program. The focus is our Manufacturing Careers Month, and we're talking today about the importance of getting training as you want to further your career. One of the things that we often stress to people is about to be able the ability to have upward mobility. You don't want to start in a business at $15 an hour and be making that same $15 an hour 15 years from now. And there's a lot of upward mobility in that. Can we talk a little bit as we shift to about some of the common tools and machines? You mentioned forklifts earlier in the sense of safety, but can we talk a little bit about some of the areas of training that somebody who wants to further their career in manufacturing should pursue, certain tools, equipment, and like you said, OSHA, any other thing they should pursue?
Absolutely. It really, and so manufacturing is so broad, right? So in manufacturing, you could be pouring olive oil in bottles for one of the local olive oil companies, or you could be mixing spices at McCormick, out Hunt Valley, or their other locations, or you could be working in Silver Spring at the Pepsi bottling company, or you could be working as Shep, which does pallet repair, right? There's the Giant Distribution Center. So there's all these different moving pieces that fall under the umbrella of manufacturing. So the first thing that a person wants to do is figure out what part of manufacturing is for them, because where vehicle processing might be for me, I might love to get behind the wheel of cars and drive the vehicles on and off the vessels, right? And so I need to know what type of tools I need to be able to install the stereo system inside of the vehicles, because not all vehicles that touch down in Baltimore are going to be pre-assembled. So some vehicles are going to come as just, the four wheels and the body, and then you have to install the seating and the dashboards and all of those things, right? So that requires a certain type of mechanical skills. For something else, say for the Giant Distribution Center that is moving vegetables and produce, and you have to work in a freezer, basically, right? And so there's being able to operate the forklift, right? And so there are certain skills that you have to have. But the first one that I would have to say is about critical thinking, right? So oftentimes when we think about skills, we think about those hard skills. And Marvin, I just want to share this with you, and this is something that you've heard over your career over and over and over. The employer say to us, I can teach them the hard stuff. I can teach them the hard skills. What I can't teach them is the soft skills. I can't teach them integrity. I can't teach them how to show up to work on time. I can't teach them how to, if they're not going to come, if they're going to be out, how to call in to give their supervisor enough time to make changes, right? So there's certain things that employers are looking for in terms of hard skills. But what I hear often, and I've heard this throughout decades at this point, is that we need people to come with professional soft skills. Those professional soft skills, first and foremost, is to be able to show up on time. So if my shift starts at 10 o'clock, 10, 8, or 6, let's say 6 o'clock. My shift starts at 6 o'clock. I'm not showing up to work at 6 o'clock, right? And when I show up to work at 6 o'clock, I got a sandwich in my hand and a cup of coffee. That's a skill. And so it's those type of skills that employers in the manufacturing industry are looking at, right? So they want to make sure that you are there on time. And when they mean on time, you show up 15 minutes early, 10, 15 minutes early, so that you can do whatever it is you need to do to be able to be at your workstation doing your work at 6 o'clock, right? So it's those type of skills. Again, those critical thinking skills in terms of conflict resolution, right? We're not going to always agree on things, and we may be working side by side. So how do we resolve whatever conflict that we have in a way that doesn't get both of us fired? And so those are the type of skills, along with the hard skills. But the hard skills, we're talking about the ability to operate a forklift. Now, let me just throw this out there. The marijuana has not been legalized in the state of Maryland to my understanding.
You are correct.
I know it's been decriminalized, and so understand what that means, because I have people who say, oh, marijuana is legal, because we tell them that you can't operate a forklift because it's heavy equipment, it's heavy machinery. And so you want to operate a forklift under the influence of a substance that can alter your mindset.
I often say that, Maurice, as we see things trending towards the decriminalization piece. I try to stress and drive home to people that when it comes down to jobs, especially manufacturing, it's a safety issue. It ain't about your criminal, and people really don't get that. But then I think about what you said about everything from them large cans at the port down to a nail gun. You don't want somebody handling that equipment under the influence.
Exactly. And I mean, it goes, and so transportation is part of manufacturing, right? And so you may be driving, you may be operating a forklift, or you may be operating some type of truck that is required for the manufacturing industry. And so, again, like being under the influence of a foreign substance that can alter your mindset, your mind state, has a lot to do with safety. That's what it comes down to. The bottom line is safety for everybody in manufacturing. But also, I want to throw this out there because we talked about wage. I had an employer say to me, Marvin, that people come to us and they want to make $20 an hour. But what they don't understand is, if for them to make $20 an hour, they need to be able to make the company $60 an hour. And I said, that's interesting. Can you elaborate? And they said, sure. They said people want vacation time, right? People want to be able to take a week or 2 weeks vacation and still get paid for it. People want health insurance. People want to be able to work in safe environments. Well, all of that has cost. And I said, you know what? I never thought about it that way. I said, that's a very interesting concept and a way to look at it. And as soon as my meeting was over, I could not wait to rush back. This was pre-COVID. I could not wait to rush back and share with our trainees what was shared with me by the employer, right? So I know you see it, I see it. People, I heard you got jobs, and
Mm-hmm.
how much they pay. And you say, okay, well, this job pay 14, this job pays 16, this job pays 12.50, and people are like, nah, I need something with $20 an hour. Well, first off, what is your skill set that
Yes.
require an employer to give you the 20? And in order to give you the 20, are you capable of bringing in 60 an hour for that employer so that you can get the benefits that you also seek in conjunction with that $20?
You said it way nicer than I said it, because I've said it to people like, man, you want $20 an hour, but you got $8 an hour skills. Like, and this is why it's important to focus and to put a focus on stuff like training and growth, personal growth and development all the way across the board, because it literally drives what you're able to make. I haven't gotten the opportunities and the salary short of the grace and favor of God on my life, except positioning myself. And you have organizations like Maryland New Direction. I know you mentioned the forklift, you mentioned the nail gun. What other types of equipment should a person want to be able to get pretty solid skills working in? And that thing about the car, I've been knowing about that car thing a long time. I didn't know they went as far as having to put the seats in. So I can
Yeah,
imagine that being all kind of power tools and all
absolutely.
kind. Because Pete, that's another thing, And one of our good co-workers, my good co-workers, Darrell Falls, we have been on a mission to crack the port, man, and to get more opportunities for people in the city of Baltimore. But then we learned that there's so much more than just having a TWIC card.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And see, that's the thing. Like in terms of tools. So part of the tools could be your equipment. Do you have the proper equipment to be able to go into that work environment, right? Some work environments in manufacturing require you to have steel toe shoes, right? Do you have those? And don't assume that the employer is going to provide the equipment that you need to do the job. I've had some employers that will provide it. I have other employers to say that that's up to them. And M&D had jumped into the process and say, okay, we have some funds that will allow us to buy their uniforms, their equipment, safety goggles, their vests, those type of things. But that's not every, some people haven't come through the doors at M&D, and so they wouldn't be able to get access to it because they don't have the means and they haven't come to an organization like M&D. So again, having the proper equipment, or being in a position to get the proper equipment, safety equipment is huge, right? Can you come on day one of the job and be ready to do the job, right? But using power tools like a nail gun. Let me just stress, using a nail gun usually means that it's powered by gunpowder. So a nail gun is very powerful. It's a very powerful tool, right? So the nail gun, a drill, I mean, I've seen people who you show them a hammer, right? You show them a regular hammer and they say, what is that? A hammer. They don't know how to use a hammer. They don't know how to use a saw. I'm talking about a regular saw, right? And so as we become a more technological society, some folks have gotten away from basic manual tools and labor, being able to use a hammer, not knowing how to use a hammer. An employer may say, okay, here's a toolbox. I need you to go in there and I need you to install this door. Do you have the skills to know what tool to pull out that toolbox and install a door? Right? So what happens, and you notice, Marvin, and I notice that some people are very good talkers, right? They know
Oh my
how to
God, they will
sell,
interview their way into the door and can't bust a grape, as we used to say.
right? So I get the concept of fake it till you make it, but at some point you got to
Got
know
to
how to
show and
make it.
prove. You got to show and prove. We got about 5 minutes left in the segment. Maurice, you are dropping a lot of jewels today. Again, you on live with the Employ Baltimore show. Put some likes and hearts in there. It's our Manufacturing Careers Month. Put the hashtag MCM in the comments. We on with Mr. Maurice Good for Maryland New Direction. We got two things. Well, one more thing I want you to do before we ask you for your any final remarks that you have. Tell people how they can get connected to Maryland New Direction, who is a partner of the Mayor's Office of Employment Development and been that way for a long time.
Absolutely. MND sees MOED as our big brother, right? And so for those of us who have the big homies, have the big brothers, that's a very special relationship. So, Moed is MND's big brother, big homie, right? And so how you can be connected to us, we have a Facebook page. Maryland Interactions has a Facebook page, an Instagram, we have Twitter. Our phone number is 410-230-0630, 410-230-0630. We also have a website. So Maryland New Direction, it's actually mdnewdirections.org. mdnewdirections.org.
So you guys are still functioning through the pandemic.
Man, let me tell you something. My team is so awesome that when the governor made his stay-at-home order, that was March, I want to say more like March 12th. March 16th, we went virtual. And so we were in our second, going into our third week of our commercial passenger transportation training. And we found a way to figure it out, and we went virtual. And we've been going virtual every month with our manufacturing supply chain training since the pandemic. So from May up until now, every month we've done the supply chain, right? Because that's where the greatest need at. For us, and you and I are cut from the same cloth in this way, we ain't about training with no job at the end.
Come on, talk about, because that was my next question.
And so we don't train. So we don't train if we don't have employers, right? For that particular industry. So hospitality had took a hit. And so it didn't make sense for us to train people in hospitality when hotels were shutting their doors. It didn't make sense for us to train in passenger transportation when they were, downsizing. So we focused on where the need was. The need was the supply chain. So I remember around April or May of last year when Pompeian Olive Oil, which is one of our champions and great partners, they were paying people $30 an hour for working on weekends and for hazard pay. So of course the pay has come down, but again, that's where the need was. So, companies like Giant, Pompeian Olive Oil,
both
some of the other companies of ours that are in the supply chain, they needed people desperately, right? Because people were staying at home. And so those needs were, people needed to meet those needs. So we continue to train in that space, and we continue to train in that space. But this month in April, starting Monday, we have our hospitality training because we have Four Seasons as a partner. We have the Hyatt. We have this hotel Revival is one of our partners. And so they're like, hey, we need people. And so we're restarting our hospitality training as well as continuing our manufacturing supply chain for the month of April. So it's not too late for people to get in who want to get a forklift certified and get a job in the supply chain, or if they want to get a guest service certification through the American Hotel Lodging Education Institute and want to go into the hospitality. We have the University of Maryland Medical Center as our employer. So we got all these employers that are calling us. And so
man, you preach it to the choir, Maurice. You preach it to the choir.
I know I am.
I tell people there's no short of opportunities in Baltimore, and that's why it's our goal and our focus to just build this trained workforce to be able to make sure that we can meet the needs. You heard a lot of names from Maurice that you hear from MOED because we all are working in concert to build this robust work system that works. Maurice, I want to thank you for being with us today, man.
Thank you,
Again, you dropped a lot of jewels. I'm certain that we're going to sit down and talk again in the near future. You got the information, residents of the city of Baltimore, on how to connect with Maryland New Direction. And as always, being that they are a partner from the Mayor's Office of Employment Development, you can always reach out to us at any of our centers. That's Northwest, East Side, Yo West, Yo East, the Employment Connection Center, and our community job hubs. Our network is broad, and we're everywhere that you need to be. We are starting to transition back to in-person services, but we, like Maryland New Direction, has never stopped providing services. We went virtual and continue to serve the city of Baltimore. One more time, we want to ask everybody to continue in prayer for Bryce, for Bryce's family, and for our MOED family. 32 years of dedicated and committed services. Our Director of Communications, Mr. Bryce Freeman, there's no measuring what he's meant to workforce development. You see people like me out in the forefront. You see some of my colleagues out in the forefront. His job didn't allow him to be a face that you've seen in the center, but his impact, again, is immeasurable. Continue to keep his family and our MOED family in prayer. We have an outro for you today. It's a video outro, but I'm going to tell you, you want to get your pen and paper, because as this video outro is playing, it's going to be critical information. Pompane Olive Oil is on there. A whole bunch of the manufacturing companies, as we continue to focus on manufacturing in the month of April, are listed on here, and everything, including contact information to how you reach my colleagues in the Mayor's Office of Employment Development to get connected to those opportunities. I want to say thank you for tuning in. Arlie, our producer, thank you for making the magic happen behind the scenes. Again, Lonnie from Joy Baltimore, we want to thank you for being a part of our broadcast and bringing that great wisdom and knowledge that you brought with us as we seek to be better at providing services to all people in Baltimore, and in your case specifically the LGBTQ community. And I want to thank Mr. Andre Beckles for giving us those 3 great tips on navigating the job board. With that being said, Ollie, let's get that outro up. Y'all get y'all pen and y'all papers and get some great information on how you can get some great manufacturing jobs. Thank you for tuning in.